This is a pretty nascent medium. I think that in the pre-interview with Jonathan, he called it sort of the cave painting stage, but it's certainly coming. It's on the way, and it needs to be embraced. And so these guys are going to sort of weigh in on that topic. Brad has done a sort of bespoke treatment for us today. He's going to show it, and then he's going to do a dissection of it, and then we'll sort of talk about it, some trends after that. So Brad, take it away.
A couple of weeks ago, when I met up with Tremor for the first time, we were talking about interactive, and they were saying how 99% of the time, companies will come to them after the spot's all finished. They'll have a 15-second or a 30-second pre-roll, hand it to them, and basically say, can you retrofit this and make it interactive? And you're saying that, which is fine, and you guys are able to do a lot with that and create a lot from that. But how much better it would be if, before the fact, like in the writing process and in the production process, if you guys were looped in. So basically our case study was to say, okay, what if we did that ourselves? And very limited time, basically had 2 weeks. I had a character that I'm building called Thumbjaw, which is just a side project, and it's supposed to be all photos and video. But so I never had any intention of making it interactive. But basically they showed me the tool set they have and the people in place and said, this is what we could do. And normally you do this with click-through ads and things like that. But I was like, well, with this same structure, can we not create new stories out of it and kind of utilize it for that? So that's basically what it is. East Pleasant from New York produced it with me. Umbrella from Budapest did all the post-production. And then obviously Tremor did the interactive. So I haven't slept much in the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
So if it's a little bit weird, I'm going to blame it on that. So
okay. Do you want to take us through it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so basically how this works is that we start out with the standard pre-roll spot, aka your repurposed television spot or flat video spot.
Hello, my name
usually a
is
15 or
Tommy
30 second.
And welcome to my showcase.
And this is all Brad's vision, so we kind of showed Brad what we could do with interactivity.
Yeah.
When you come in, you have your video playing.
Or do something magical.
And if you decide to engage, here comes Brad's vision of what his talent show for Thumbjaw appears to be. Woo! Look at that. Look at that. That's pretty good. I'm going to vote that one up. That's pretty good. Oh, wait. He's not looking so good. Well, that's pretty. But I don't like feet, so he got booed. And so now, as the experience goes on, there's about, what, 4 different treatments here. I think, Brad, you can talk about
how
you saw this.
It'd be a whole list of talents, and if we had more time, there'd also be more bells and whistles around it. It's like the basic structure of it.
Keep booing or keep creating. But, the idea here, this is just a basic, simple case study of taking a video into an interactive medium and then seeing what develops from that. And so I think as creatives and all that, in the space, you don't have to be tied to just 15 or 30-second spots, especially for interactive mediums, and that's the whole point with this.
Yeah, again, I mean, roast beef. This little piggy had none. And this little piggy went wee, wee, wee all the way home. My face. Okay. I hope I'm not being too pushy.
So that's basically it. So again, if that was a brand, or that was like sort of your mascot or your character, again, the whole point is for someone to voluntarily engage with your brand for a longer time than just the 15-second or 30-second pre-roll.
Right.
So basically pulling from that. And on top of that too, like there's a lot of really fantastic examples of good interactive projects. Like Old Spice just did the Muscle Music one, and that's something built from the ground up. It's a whole project to convince the client or something like that is a pretty big deal. This is something where, again, the people, the tools are in place. It's more of a scalable option, and it's not as big of a leap as some of the other more massive projects are. And on top of that, it also goes into the websites that people are already going to. So it's not a unique URL. It is the normal pre-roll on like the New York Times or MTV.com or stuff like that.
Right. So is really the goal to have this interactivity baked into these activations from the very start, and sort of talk, maybe you can sort of talk about that quickly, and I'd love to get these guys into the conversation. But, these guys are creatives and storytellers, and how they can see that interactive tool set working going forward. So, but to talk about the importance of having it from the very get-go into these projects.
Again, what's happening now is the video's already finished, they get it, and then they retrofit it and do things like that. So if you do get it in the beginning of the process, you're able to rewrite a different story for it. Not so much so that the brand will shy away from it, hopefully, because you kind of get baby steps of doing more interactive, but in a way where it's like you could add a few bells and whistles there, with a little bit of foresight in what you're doing.
Sure.
So this, for example, with our production schedule of shooting in one day, it works as the interactive is all like a bunch of one-take wonders, which then those individual assets work inside of this type of structure with the tool sets we have. But I also can turn around now and chop that up into a normal 30-second, make it a fun, flashy, like quick cut talent show type thing, and then we have both living simultaneously. So if there was a TV spot, it'd still be the 30, and if there's an interactive, you also have it there. So with a little bit of foresight and just planning ahead of time, you can kind of have it be utilized in more mediums.
Sure.
This one. And again, people are already doing the interactive quite a bit, some from the ground up, and then some others just as a retrofitted thing on the end of a 15 or 30. So if they're already doing that, might as well start looping the interactive in sooner and creating something a little bit more dynamic.
Sure. Jonathan, and Ari too. Sorry.
That's fine.
The bringing these things into messaging, it's probably the wave of the future for sure. But what is your take on it from your perspective as a narration tool at this point?
I mean, I think, so what we try to do from where I'm sitting now, we're trying to sort of create an enhanced experience. And I guess what we start with is sort of, why would anybody care about this? So I think the layer of being able to touch and control is charming as far as that goes. But I think, sort of trying to look for some kind of deeper action, some deeper connection, and it's kind of a richer experience is sort of always where we start. So interactivity for me is kind of built into experience, and it would always be part of it. So I think that the mechanics of how it works is really sort of whiz-bang stuff. And if anybody saw, for us at SMG, it just maps to behavior and what people really want to do and sort of giving them something back for that, right? So, yeah.
Larger conversation to be had about the value of the pre-roll, right? Because
Sure.
this is, in a way, trying to see if... Right now, people have that choice 5 seconds into it to skip the ad, right? And that's the interactive choice.
Sure.
To not watch it, right? And so a lot of it comes from that place of like, well, is there value in it? How can you make it engaging? And so different things like this, or like I've seen what you're talking about a little bit, links into this idea of like narrative choices that we've played with, where it's like you make a choice within the video and it affects the character. You can clearly see like, oh, you chose this and the character responded. So what could be, another idea is like, what could be this little pre-roll thing that was 30 seconds and most people are watching 5 and skipping, maybe becomes after 5 seconds you have that first choice and you make a choice and you see, oh, that affected the narrative in a way. What if I make another choice and another choice, and then you find yourself spending 2 minutes on a 30-second. That's like holy grail stuff.
Right.
But right now the question is, we're still in that like, pre-roll feels invasive, most people skip it. Does it even matter at this point? And is it still the way in terms of like monetizing, but is it valuable?
Right.